Well, catastrophic flooding has devastated parts of Mozambique after days of torrential rain, forcing hundreds of thousands of people from their homes. Aid organizations say many residents remain trapped on rooftops as floodwaters continue to rise. More than 620,000 people have now been affected, with tens of thousands of homes destroyed, as well as critical infrastructure badly damaged. Emergency teams are now racing against time to deliver life-saving assistance. For more on this, let's extend a very warm welcome to Professor Guy Midgley, who's a professor and director of the School for Climate Studies at the Stellenbosch University. Professor Midgley, it's such a pleasure, sir. Welcome. So please explain to us in brief but finer detail the climate condition that led to the current devastating floods in Mozambique, as well as some large parts of South Africa. Is there a specific climate-related condition that is currently aiding also to the devastating impact? I mean, it's well over 500,000 affected. This is quite a concerning number. Good afternoon.
Well, thanks very much for having me. It's a great honor to be on your show. And well, the challenge with Mozambique is that the country, if you look at a map of Mozambique, a large part of the coastal area of Mozambique is very low lying and it's very flat. And it essentially acts as a floodplain for some pretty big rivers, Limpopo, the Zambezi, and others. And so they are extremely vulnerable when we get the kind of climate conditions that we've been having for the last year or so, which is a La Nina condition, which tends to increase the summer rainfall. So it's a combination of vulnerability and this seasonal climatic situation, and it's somewhat enhanced by climate warming as well, which adds further to the disaster.
Very interesting indeed, Prof. But I mean, I'm sure you saw that shocking image of an entire highway underwater in Mozambique. I mean, there's also extensive infrastructural damage, even here in South Africa, meaning that we need to start investing more in climate resilient infrastructure. But this should have long been planned for, Professor. How does such planning actually look like ultimately? And will the continent ever be able to play catch up?
Well, you put your finger on an incredibly important point. We heard that R1 trillion in South Africa is being made available for key interventions in climate resilience. And the point I'd like to make is that adapting to climate change is a development opportunity. So we can use funding to recover from climate disasters and build much better infrastructure. It creates a lot of jobs as well, but we can build much better infrastructure so we can invest that money and develop ourselves out of climate risk. And we need to be very, I think, very cogent and very intentional about linking adaptation to climate change and development funding. That's going to be a real boost for the African economy over the next few decades, I think.
I mean, let's unpack the devastating impact of these floods, Professor, because it's never just about the infrastructure. The health risks as well as humanitarian crises that unfold often go hand in hand with these events. So urgent climate reforms must be implemented in high-risk areas.
That's true. And, you know, we also have in Africa, we've got a real trick up our sleeve, which I think we don't use enough. And that is the power of our natural ecosystems. We have a large diversity of plant and animal species, particularly plants, trees, grasses, shrubs, mangroves, and all sorts of species that if we were to manage the landscapes better that feed these rivers, we could actually reduce flood risk as one example, and coastal flooding risk as well through managing mangroves and protecting those ecosystems. So this is more than just about investing into hard infrastructure. It's also about planning and managing our landscapes in much better ways, which can be extremely effective.
And speaking about that, that's my next question, Prof. I mean, while we're addressing the issue of those high-risk areas, I mean, it's a wider collaborative effort, right, from land reform to development, spatial planning and the likes, because it seems the floods are ravaging those low-lying areas, as you alluded to earlier. Where does government even start then, you think, so they can even better mitigate and also minimize the severe impact during climate-related disasters?
Well, I've been looking a little bit at the Mozambican national and regional arrangements. They've got a pretty sophisticated set of institutions set up to deal with these sorts of things, from municipal level all the way through to a national government level. Lots of committees, lots of municipal institutions that are there. And I think that the basics are in place, but I think they just have become overwhelmed by an extreme condition. And this really speaks to multi-country collaboration, because a lot of these flood waters are pouring into Mozambique from other countries. Yeah. So it's about regional management, managing our regional environment in a way that protects all our countries. The climate doesn't recognize political borders, and rivers don't recognize political borders. So that's our human systems and our political systems have to adapt, because you can't fool nature.
Absolutely, Prof. I saw a cartoon of a rhino that had apparently slept for 5 minutes and he woke up. He was at the Kruger National Park and he woke up in Mozambique. So when you talk about these, it's quite interesting. Prof, great engaging with you. Thank you so much for your time. That is Professor Guy Midgley from the School for Climate Change Studies at Stellenbosch University, weighing in on the Mozambican floods.